Hello guys, it's Mr. Jimmy. I will give you the review for 6A and 6B science for the third partial exam. We're gonna start with chapter number 6. Remember, on page 222, the first lesson is the atmosphere around you. In this first lesson, you had to memorize the vocabulary and the academic vocabulary. For example, over here you have in the vocabulary, you have academic and vocabulary. Atmosphere, air pressure, altitude, wind, and stable. Okay, in the next page, for example, you have an atmosphere. Remember what is an atmosphere? We talk about the Earth's insulator on page 223. Okay, next page. Over here you have the composition of the atmosphere. Remember, if you have something underlined in this page, you have to study. Next page, page 225, you have the air pressure. You have the definition for air pressure and the altitude, okay? Next page. Okay, you have to identify the layers of the atmosphere. There are thermosphere, sorry. You have mesosphere, you have stratosphere, and you have troposphere. That's on page 226. Okay, next page, you have academic vocabulary, stable. Study this definition for the exams. Okay, that's lesson number 1. We're gonna move to lesson number 2. That's weather in the atmosphere. Over here you have another words in the vocabulary is just academic vocabulary. For example, over here in the academic vocabulary, you have what is a cycle. Okay, in the academic vocabulary, you have water cycle, evaporation, condensation, dew point, humidity, relative humidity, and precipitation. All these words you had to memorize, okay, for the exams. For example, you have a water cycle and a cycle in the next page. Next page is 231. For example, a cycle is any series of events that repeat in the same order over and over again. Okay, next page. You have continue with the condensation. Okay, memorize what is a condensation, dew point. Next page is relative humidity. Over here you have humidity. For example, is a measure of the amount of the water vapor in the air. Okay, you have another definition, relative humidity. Okay, memorize that too. Okay, next page, we are on page 235. There are precipitation. We have a different type of precipitation, like a freezing rain, hail, sleet, and snow. Remember that 4 type of precipitation on page 235. Okay, next part, you have again the water cycle and the same thing, how you measuring the precipitation. Okay, next lesson is lesson number 3, the air masses. We are on page 240. Over here you have another words. For example, you have air mass, jet stream, front, cyclone, and anticyclone. In the academic vocabulary, you have prevailing and stationary words. Okay, it's the same, guys. You have to study the definition for each one. In this case, you have 3 different definitions on page 241. It's the major air masses. Over here, you have air masses, prevailing, and jet stream. Memorize that. Okay, type of air masses. Okay, there are different type of air masses. For example, you have a continental polar, maritime polar, continental tropical, and maritime tropical. There are 4 type of air masses. Okay, now next page. Next page is 243, types of front. There are 4 type of front. It's in the next page. Over here in the top of the page, you have cold front, warm front, occluded front, and stationary front. Memorize the 4 type of front. And over here you have that definitions. Okay, that's on page 244. Okay, we're gonna move over here. You have those 2 definitions, cyclone and anticyclone. Okay, I think it's the left. Another lesson is predicting weather change. Over here is a easy lesson because you have just to study 2 different definitions, one in the vocabulary and one in the academic vocabulary. Okay, a meteorologist, you know, guys, is a person who study and predict the weather. Okay, we are on page 250. Over here in 250 page is weather technology. Over here we have 4 types of how the meteorologists study about the weather using technology. In this case, we have a weather balloons, automatic weather station. There are 2, 3, computer forecast 3, and the last one is weather satellites. That's on page 250. That are the type of weather technologies. Okay, next page. You have just another word definition. It's on page 252. Study that and remember to study the underlined part 2 for each lesson. Okay, the last lesson is lesson number 5. Severe weather and flood. Over here you have a lot of words to memorize in the vocabulary. For example, the storm, thunderstorm, hurricane, tornado, storm surge, flood, and drought. And one word in the academic vocabulary. That's approximate. Over here, the same thing, guys. Type of severe storms. There are many severe storms. The winter storm, the cold storm. Okay, we are on page 259. Over here, you have the definition of thunderstorm. And next page, the hurricane. Okay, another definition on page 261, a storm surge. And tornadoes too, guys. Type of flood and drought is on page 263. Study that too. And the last part you have to study is storm safety. If you have something to underline in that page, study that too, please. Okay, I think is that for the topic 6. Remember, guys, there are 5 lessons to study. Study the definition for each lesson, vocabulary and academic vocabulary, and the parts that you underline in all the class. We'll see you guys in maybe a couple days, and have a nice day. God bless you guys.